So we have a couple of methods. We use an automatic method and then like a manual method, so to say. For the automatic method, we partnered with AT&T. AT&T provides a lot of our services as far as our WAN services, our uplink services, internet, DNS. We have a lot of our outside structure is AT&T. So one of the services they offered was a vulnerability analysis tool. And what it is it's basically just a box or a computer that sits on our network and it gets updated with a list of vulnerabilities, I think every week. And so we run that about every 2 weeks or every month. It's very shallow, it's very automatic, so we don't expect a whole lot out of it, but the reports do help. So it'll help us figure out different operating systems that are, maybe two or three computers didn't get an update that they needed to get, or maybe two or three computers running an outdated Java version. Simple things like that. Printers. Maybe we got a new printer and it is subject to a vulnerability. Things like that that'll pick up. We run that quite often. It's actually probably of all the security tools that we run that more than anything else. And then when we want to go more in depth, we do more of a manual analysis, and that usually takes. We usually do that about every 3 months. When doing the CEH course, as far as vulnerability analysis goes, I knew it existed, but aside from running like an antivirus scan, back when I was doing just personal computer upgrades and break fix, things like that, I really didn't know a whole lot about it. With the CEH course, I got introduced to things like Kali Linux and the Burp Suite and some of these other tools that are specifically designed to show you what exploits are there. And then that tool can be used two ways, right? So it can be used to gain entrance, to figure out what's going on with the system in order to get in, or you can use it to figure out what's going on with the system so you can fix it if you're on the defender side of the network. And that kind of opened up a whole world to me of what I needed to do as far as from a network infrastructure level on protecting a lot of these pieces of equipment. Antivirus scans can only get you so far. Having a suite of various tools that allow you to dig into these various vulnerabilities was really a big deal, and it was really honestly scary to figure out how easy it was for just about anyone to have access to a whole very powerful suite of tools to look at someone's network and figure out exactly where it was vulnerable in a matter of literally minutes. So knowing that and being able to utilize that to defend my network, it was a pretty big turning point as far as where I started to actually gain a little bit more knowledge on how to protect the network quite a bit better. Honestly, I think it's probably the most important thing to check. One, because it's the easiest thing to do, especially with an automated package. You can get an automated package that'll scan for vulnerabilities for next to nothing. And there's a lot of free stuff out there that'll do it too. And it gives you a very quick snapshot of where you're at, where you're at as far as the vulnerabilities stand. You'll be able to tell sometimes within minutes, how vulnerable your network is, or how many computers didn't get an update that's an emergency update, or maybe you got a computer that hasn't updated in 5 years that's running on the network, and it's somebody is able to leverage that. They're able to really exploit your network. And it's so easy to do. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort or even a whole lot of expertise. And so, with all of those things combined, to me, make it the most important thing to do, because there's no reason to not do that. There's really not an excuse to not run it, especially because you can even get the cost down to zero if you really wanted to. So with as easy as it is to do, and with the stakes as high as they are, if you have a vulnerable network or you have a vulnerable machine, to me that makes it very important, and that makes it something that should be on at least a weekly basis or a bi-weekly basis on every, IT team's list of things to do. I say that you use the automatic method, and I think this is done not only from an ethical hacker standpoint, but from a black hat hacker standpoint. Is the automated is what you run often because it's easy and it's quick and it's almost automated. And then what you see trigger and come back is what you base your manual analysis on. So you can use that to prove a point. If you're a black hat hacker, you might use that to leverage a system. But the automatics need to be, they're so quick, you can do them very often. Manual obviously takes a little bit more time, takes a little bit more expertise. You have to have a little bit of knowledge of the suite and how to use it and how to be good at it. Now, granted, anybody can do it, but in order to be proficient, you want to have at least a little bit of knowledge of what you're doing. So the way that we do it here is that we every 2 weeks we usually do an automated analysis, and then usually every couple months we'll do a manual analysis. Um, and we use what we get from the automated analysis to run the manual analysis. For example, let's say that through 2 or 3 different automated analyses, we come up with 2 or 3 different pain points, and that they're consistent. You know, if a machine's missing a security vulnerability, but then it clears up next time around, well, it might have just been it didn't hit it. You got it in between the two automatics. But if it's a consistent over and over and over again, this machine or this particular part of the network is experiencing, vulnerabilities or possible exploits, then you know that you have a deeper problem. Maybe you have too slow of a link to that office, so it can't download updates, from Microsoft Update, for example. Or, maybe there is already an exploit on that side of the network or on that machine that is preventing it from getting updated. So you can't only rely on the automatic updates. You have to be able to do the manual ones, and you have to be able to know what you're doing in order to keep everything protected. How I deal with false positives, honestly, I maybe shouldn't even admit this, but I don't even get to the point where I try to filter them out anymore. Once you read so many of these automated reports, you get to notice what's false and what isn't. And I would rather have it tuned to where I see more false positives than false negatives. And then sometimes I'll even send some of the junior guys on wild goose chases with a false positive, just so they can get a feel of what it's like to chase these down and do the due diligence, and then come back with, yeah, this is a normal process. So it's a great, to me, learning tool. Um, and it's also, I've run into issues where if I tune a vulnerability analysis tool too tight, that I might miss something, and that scares me to death. So I would rather get the false positives and know how to read them when they are false positives, than to tune it, so much that that I potentially miss something. And then again, like I said, it's a great training tool for the new guys, to show them kind of the ropes. Like, oh, hey, this vulnerability came across. Once you trace that down, tell me what that's all about. And then it's also kind of fun for. Like I mentioned earlier, I use AT&T mainly for the automatic tool. They have a proprietary device that sits on our network that runs through the analysis. Honestly, I don't know what it's called. It's a proprietary thing that they provide for us. As far as manual analysis, I usually let the junior team decide what they want to use. But I do know that Kali Linux, I mean, honestly, for any of this kind of stuff, Kali Linux is really the only way to go. It's going to give you the baseline for everything you want to do. Burp Suite is pretty nice. I like that a lot. Um, that would probably be my favorite tool set. Um, but Kali Linux and Burp Suite, I guess, for the manual analysis, and then for the automatic analysis is the AT&T tool that they provide for us.